Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I am going to be talking about being born on a lunar eclipse in astrology. Now, first off, when a total lunar eclipse takes place, the North Node will conjunct the Moon or the Sun, and the South Node will conjunct the Moon or the Sun as well. Now, when it is not a total lunar eclipse, you're going to have it'll either be a partial or penumbral, but what you're going to have, the conjunctions to the nodes may not take place. As far as the Moon and the Sun making conjunctions to the nodes may not take place, but you'll have the Sun making the opposition aspect to the Moon in both cases, or I should say all three cases, whether it's a total lunar eclipse, a partial, or a penumbral lunar eclipse. But when it's a total lunar eclipse, you will have the conjunctions from the Sun and the Moon to the nodes, but you may not have them if it is partial or penumbral. That's basically the difference. Of course, a total lunar eclipse can have a more powerful effect, I believe, on the persona, astrologically speaking, as opposed to the other two that are not total lunar eclipses, but they can still have a powerful effect. Now, the thing about this is, looking at this, what I look at is, now we have to understand, when you have when a lunar eclipse occurs in astrology, this could be a time where you could have very powerful, uninhibited, unrestrained emotional energy and expression. Now, so I think it's safe to surmise now, in a natal chart, if somebody has this could give this kind of energy to the person, in their general nature. I mean, let's take, for example, somebody has the Moon in Gemini, and they were born under a lunar eclipse. This person, they could have this could extremely intensify very excitable, high-strung energy with manifold and many expressions of feelings. I would think it's total emotional versatility, and I think, and even more so, than a typical full moon, of course. So let's take another example. Let's say that somebody was to have, they were born under a lunar eclipse and their moon is in Scorpio. Well, this could give very extremely powerful, intense, even convoluted, sometimes emotional expression and outbursts. When you have, the thing about this is, when somebody has when someone's born under a lunar eclipse, I think it could give a very strong propensity for some kind of public acclaim, or a greater chance of having some kind of notoriety and recognition. Because the thing about this is, no matter how you look at whether, you're either going to have the North Node making a conjunction to the Moon, or the North Node making a conjunction to the Sun. If the North Node makes a conjunction to the Moon could be connected with the public. So the future and the destiny may be tied in with the public. You have, if the North Node makes a conjunction to the Sun, well, that future, that destiny, that mission, that purpose may be tied in with that need to get to shine and stand out. Now, and really, and also too, when you look at this, anyone, I would say, born under a lunar eclipse, especially a total one. Now, this could be where all aspects in the chart, all aspects and placements, even if you have some kind of configuration aspect, like say a yod, you have a planetary pattern, anything in that astrological chart can be emphasized or exacerbated, no matter how you look at it, emphasized more with the positive, auspicious placements, but negative ones, such as adverse aspects, like say Saturn, an adverse aspect to Venus, could be more exacerbated. But these energies, I would think, would be intensified, because when you actually have a lunar eclipse take place electionally, when it's in transit, those other astrological energies that are not connected, that are not directly with that lunar eclipse, that opposition with the moon and the sun, and it's not, I mean, those other energies, astrological energies, can be intensified as well. So it's natural to think and surmise that, well, that energy in a natal chart, natally speaking, can be emphasized much stronger as well. Now, the thing about it is, I mean, you could have, I think too, when somebody is born, I mean, if you have a total, say you have a total, I mean, somebody born on a lunar eclipse, it could be a person that may go through many revelations of character composition of others. Now, because, I mean, you could be, because remember, when you're talking about a lunar eclipse in astrology, this could be about very strong, powerful unveilings and revelations. You have this in one's natal chart. A person, I think, I would think, would be experiencing this really very, perhaps regularly in some degree. And look at it now, for example, let's say that somebody has, they were born under a lunar eclipse, and they have the moon in Pisces in their 12th house. Well, as an example, well, this could be somebody that might, it could be a person that may go through many unveilings and revelations of people that they thought perhaps were more scrupulous, given that, of course, Virgo's sun would be the opposite point of this in terms as far as the eclipse. And it might be somebody that maybe was actually more duplicitous and deceptive, given that it's the moon in Pisces involved, and it could be somebody that, you know, that might have actually turn out to be a hidden adversary, or maybe even somebody that had some kind of prison record, because 12th house is the house of imprisonment, and it's prison. So I mean, basically that could be one way that could manifest. Now, and also too, it could be a time, since lunar eclipses, I would think, could be connected with a lot with departures, because it's about endings and culminations and completions. It could be somebody that may go through many prominent women in their life exiting it, or even maybe people they're close to home with. Now, especially I would think if in that lunar eclipse the south node conjuncts the moon, because the south node is of course about energy you're trying to you're getting away from. So if you have this, especially if you have the south node conjunct the moon in your chart, and of course you're born under then a total lunar eclipse, you could have a lot of these experiences, I believe, with women, prominent women in your life departing, and ones that you may feel close to home with. Now, the thing about it is, a friend of mine is born under a total lunar eclipse, and he has the moon in Aquarius, and it's conjunct the north node in his 6th house. Now, he does work that is associated, you could say, with technology, and that, of course, it's constantly improving, because there's always vacuums in that business he's connected with that are always being upgraded, and there's new models that are always being produced. And the thing about it is, with this, of course, the emotional need can be connected with this, and being in the 6th house, it's not surprising that it's associated with his employment as well. Now, he also has eye issues. Now, the thing about it is, when you have this lunar eclipse and you have the sun making an opposition to the moon, it's natural to understand how this could manifest in eye difficulties, because of course the sun and the moon each one is going to rule one of the eyes, and of course that depends on gender. Now, the thing about it is too, if you have the thing in his chart, now going back to his chart, is that these eye issues can be accentuated, given that he has the sun being in the 12th house of restrictions and limitation, and his moon in Aquarius in the 6th house of health. Now, the thing about it is, given that his moon is in Aquarius in that 6th house, the eye issues may have come from something rather unusual. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this may have, I believe it was attributed to a stroke, and it caused something, I believe it caused some kind of damage to the brain, and that part of the brain was connected with some issues with the eyes. So what happened was, because of that, he does have the eye issues. So the thing about this, hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. Now the thing also is, again, going back to, if one is born under a lunar eclipse, it could be great propensity for monumental achievement. And really, the thing about this too is, a lot of this is connected. Again, I'll elaborate a little more on it. Now, when you have the lunar eclipse, total lunar eclipse, of course, you're going to have the north node will either conjunct the sun or the moon. And the person, what it does is that the reason is this person can have a greater propensity to reach high attainments and perhaps get strong recognition for it, because you're going to have that astral point, which is the north node, it's associated with one's future mission, purpose, and destiny. It's going to be integrated with either the moon, which of course is connected with the public, or the sun, and which is the ability to shine. So you have those energies amalgamated. Now, again, this is something where I'm going to talk about a famous person. Some of you may have heard of her. Is born on a total lunar eclipse. Kate Middleton, aka the Duchess of Cambridge, she has in her chart the sun in Capricorn, making an opposition aspect to her Cancer moon. Now, of course, when you have this, you have the basic wants and the emotion and are diametrically opposed to the emotional needs. And the thing about is, in her case, the sun in Capricorn connected with career and ambitions. Though that basic wants, of course, it's adversarial, it's in opposition to her moon in Cancer. And of course, that's connected with emotional needs for family and home life. So this is something where you have this strong conflict and could be very intensified, given that it is on took place during a total lunar eclipse. Now, she obviously, all this energy could be very amplified because of the lunar eclipse. Now, she's being the Duchess of Cambridge, she obviously has great renown and public acclaim. The thing about it is, going back to her sun in Capricorn, making the opposition to her Cancer moon. The Cancer moon is in the 11th house. It's conjunct the north node, but the Cancer moon is also very close to the 12th house cusp. This could indicate, looking at this, besides being a prominent member of the royal family, she also has done prodigious charity work. In 2016, her, Prince William, and Prince Harry collaborated on starting a mental health awareness campaign entitled Heads Together. Now, I think a lot of this is attributed to her north node in Cancer, which of course is connected with sympathy and nurturing and care. And she has it in the 12th house of mental illness. And also 12th house could be connected with those that are less fortunate than ourselves. And it's also conjunct the moon. So this is where you have that public connection with that, and it gives even more emotional energy associated with it. Now, the fact that you have that moon and it's making that conjunction with the north node being in the 12th house, this could reflect for her the mission and purpose really being about which is really that north node, and the public recognition, and which is the moon is integrated, is very integrated energy. So it's not surprising that she has gotten public recognition for putting this nurturing, sympathetic, caring energy into helping those less fortunate, which could be tied in, of course, to that mission, that purpose for her. Now, also too, when you have it, when you're talking about during a lunar eclipse and transit, again, going back to the other astrological energy at the time may be intensified. So again, suffice it to say, one could surmise in a natal chart somebody that is born under a lunar eclipse. That energy, of course, the other astrological energy in the chart could be amplified and intensified as well. In Kate Middleton's natal chart, she has the Jupiter in Scorpio, the sign of shared resources, conjunct her fourth house cusp. Now, this could be very auspicious for that end, that latter part of life for her, very fortuitous for resourcefulness in others' resources, and also the power and control in it. And another thing too, I noticed that she has, okay, her sun in Capricorn is in the fifth house, making an inconjunct aspect to her ascendant. Now, on 3 occasions, if I read this correctly, on 3 occasions during different times she was pregnant, she had succumbed to something called, I don't know if I'm saying this right, a hyperemesis gravidarum, and it's something, and I think, which, looking at this may have caused dehydration during these times. And given, I mean, when you have the sun afflicted in the chart, it could, I mean, looking at this, I mean, I believe it could indicate issues with dehydration. And I mean, especially when you have something like an inconjunct aspect coming, you know, hitting the ascendant, because the ascendant, of course, is our vitality, it's the physical body, and inconjuncts can often be about health issues. And I believe that sun, I mean, you might want to look this up, but it may be very close to the 6th house cusp anyway. So, I mean, really, it's not really that surprising. And of course, this is it's not surprising that something like this may have happened, which of course was very serious. And given that, I mean, Capricorn energy can be serious anyway, but the fact that, I mean, when you're talking about the zodiac sign Capricorn, it could be connected with limitations and despondency. So I'm sure this was something that really took a toll on her, and it was something that obviously caused you know, her to maybe be somewhat melancholy, dejected, more so than the average person at this time. So those are some things to look at as far as this goes. Now, another thing I want to talk about as far as somebody being born on a lunar eclipse. Now, the thing about this is when we talk about a lunar eclipse, when it's in transit, and how it may impact somebody. Well, of course, in a lunar eclipse, I mean, is a amplified full moon. And I mean, when you have a regular full moon, I mean, it's something where one could be, you know, a time where one may simply become tired, full, so to speak, exasperated at something. But if you're born on a lunar eclipse, this is something where that energy could be amplified very strongly, and you might experience this more with regularity and very powerfully. Now, somebody, for example, they have they were born on a lunar eclipse, and let's say they have the moon in Aquarius in the 6th house. This could be somebody that might continually become very tired, exasperated, full at perhaps very idiosyncratic, bizarre, unpredictable, even eccentric behavior from others, maybe in their workplace, their place of employment, in their daily routine. And this could be somewhat consistent, and the person might express a lot of very, given Aquarius, it could be a lot of very powerful, unpredictable, erratic and sporadic emotions more regularly, given that it's in the, not just because it's this person has this being born on a lunar eclipse, but because the 6th house is the house of daily routine. So those are some things to look at as far as being born on a lunar eclipse in astrology. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for my take on being born on a lunar eclipse in astrology. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be giving you my Cancer March 2019 horoscope forecast, part 1 of 2. 2 things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.